The Square Ball Podcast.
Hello, welcome to Propaganda. It's brought to you with Levi Solicitors, who will do you a 10% discount on your legal fees. levisolicitors.co.uk/The Square Ball. Usual three with you, Dan, Michael and Moscow White. For the first half of Propaganda, which is where we find out what's been said about Leeds United in the wake of the victory against Burnley. First, we find out what's been said by Leeds fans. Then, a couple of days on from the game, Tuesday now as we speak, and the dust has settled on it. And I think I enjoyed myself at the weekend. Looking back on it now, it feels like it was a nice, positive experience when it didn't necessarily feel like that at the time in the ground, though, did it?
Oh, I don't know. I think by full time I was happy enough. Well, Dan James, when I saw that header going, that was kind of my moment where I went, just exhale. It was partly relief. You know, when you narrowly avoid an accident, it was that, I think, at the weekend as well, when you think what a league table could have looked like if Burnley had beaten us and the game's in hand, and all of a sudden you're thinking, Christ, we are going down here. But as it is, I think we left the ground being like, that's fine. It's all fine now. That
probably explained the hug, didn't it? The implications of losing to Burnley were too big to contemplate. And I think certainly at full time, Pablo Quiroga must have felt good.
Yeah, in part,
you'd store that memory, wouldn't you?
In part two of the show, we will find out what the Burnley fans thought, which should be a treat. In the meantime, what did our fans think of Burnley? Let's start with that. Loads of people echoing the general sentiment that Burnley are just awful.
I think Spadge summed it up quite nicely, actually, saying that Burnley just proven why they weren't good to stay up, and also saying that Bielsa's methods may not always work and can fail fairly spectacularly. But we play football and it really well at times, and what have Burnley got to fall back on when Plan A fails? Nothing, basically.
Do Plan A better, but they didn't, did they?
But Plan A is already quite shit, and when it fails, it's bad anyway. And when it succeeds, it is bad anyway. So what are you going to do?
Finn in the comments said that Sean Dyche at the end, looking round with exactly the degree of bafflement and fury you'd expect from a barely sentient Scotch egg that someone's picked most of the crumbs off. A substantial meal, that is correct.
What do we think of Dyche? I'm sort of torn on him. I feel like he's maybe like Warnock used to be.
He's my favourite manager, and I think we should hear more from him.
Well, no, not that. But I kind of used to mind Warnock too much a lot of the time.
Well, it's like in the post-match. Well, Jake says exactly that in the comments here. Like, his post-match comments always come across as fair, although there is always a little bit of bitterness baked into it. But he was pretty decent about us, that said that we basically wanted it more, and that we outfought them, etc., etc. It's he seems like a decent enough character in the sense that he didn't like overblow the bottle throwing incident, for example. It said one person's let down what was a brilliant, well, quite a few objects thrown, but one person that hit the target.
Maybe it's all just one person.
Yeah, just the one who emptied the pockets of loads of bottles of Coke.
Real fast arm action to get all those things thrown at once.
But he seemed quite reasonable in that, and he seemed to enjoy the atmosphere in that probably that old school way that Dyche does, you imagine. But I don't know, is there a bit of Emperor's New Clothes about it? Because he's always talked up, isn't he? But when you see what his team's producing there, because as we were saying, I think on the match ball, you don't have to play like that, do you? You don't have to.
We'll get onto it when we talk about the Burnley fans' reaction, but from listening to a lot of their clips and stuff, they're they've got to the point now where they've realised that if this doesn't work, they've not got much left, and that actually they don't have any good footballers as a result of the way they play and the way they've constructed their team to play in this style. And so when you're looking for a bit of magic, you just kind of look around and you go, oh, shit. Well, we've only got a load of big plodders.
Well, Cornet's kind of the one that runs contrary to that, because I thought he was lively when he came on and he looked dangerous, didn't he? He certainly gave us something different to think about in that he could pick it up and run at us with it. But he was like one of only one who could sort of threaten us in that way.
Charlie Taylor had a bit of threat, I thought, down the left.
Yeah, but that's what I was saying on the match ball. Like, you knew what you were going to get from Burnley, and in a way I was pleased about that, because it's a known quantity. You're not dealing with like individual talents that could just beat you in a one-on-one sense. It was always going to be sort of a tactical grind.
Yeah, and once we'd dealt with Cornet coming on, the only move then was to take off Wood and put Vidra and Jay Rodriguez.
Who?
Jay Rodriguez.
Yep.
Up front. So we just went from Chris Wood with Cornet, which is big man and pace, to putting Cornet out wide and going with two big men, which is how they'd start games normally. So the variation in Dyche world on Sunday was just about what can I do, how many big men do I have up front, basically, and that's all they really have. And who is going to cross to them?
Matt's comment: why does every single Burnley player look like their favourite cuisine is roast dinner?
I mean, I do like roast dinner, but
Can't beat a roast dinner,
but not every day.
Not every day, no.
Not every day, no. West End Ralph saying on the big strikers, asking why if Dyche only signs English players, why was the Austrian Barnes left out? Because he is, isn't he? He is surprisingly Austrian. He's played for them at under 21s level, I think.
Really?
Something. Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, I think he's one of these that, like many historic people who you don't realise are Austrian.
Right.
He's one of those.
Well, Wayne Hennessy certainly wouldn't know.
No, that's very true.
Absolutely correct. Overall, there's some positives that were picked out. Team performance. Yeah, we were good pretty much all over the park, weren't we? There wasn't a bad performance in there, I don't think.
If we don't talk about Tyler's finishing, it was a good performance overall.
Nobody was perfect. Everybody was
That was
good.
true. In fact, actually, the one player who probably let us down was Rafinha with that. I didn't realise, because obviously it was at the far end. I thought the chance he missed was from a much tighter angle than that. Should have just put that in, shouldn't he?
Yeah, he should have done.
That was really a very easy chance.
Similar to you, when I saw the replays, like on Match of the Day and stuff, I thought, oh, he's done a bad there.
But yeah, everyone was great. He was probably fine, was Rafinha, but he was below his usual level, I guess. Although he did hit the bar with the shot from about halfway line, which was which we didn't mention.
Who won the ball for him?
Because you're asking the question,
He,
I'm gonna say it was Tyler Robbins.
If it wasn't him, it was Mike Whitlow.
It was funny because we were giving Rafinha the
Jordan
ball
Pataka.
a lot earlier in the first half. It seems to be the thing from the start. Instead of kind of building it slowly down the wings, we just bang the ball down for him to run into space, and that was good up to a point. But his finishing radar was as off as anybody. It's weird. You can complain. I mean, Robert should have buried that chance. Rafinha should have scored with the header at the back post. Firpo, when Robert's back heel put him through, and then Alioski did it into the cop, which is reassuring in some ways because you want him to play more like Alioski. So hit the back of the stand a few times, and so there's 3 big chances that we had on top of the 3 that we scored. So 6-1 would not have flattered us, and with it being the first time we scored 3 all season, it's good that we still had the kind of the finishing problems where you're annoyed about Roberts not burying that header, but also it didn't matter in the end because this time, whereas earlier in the season it might have cost us, today we scored 3, so you don't need to dwell on it too much. It was like the old Bamford days in the Championship when you'd be annoyed about him missing if we drew, but if we scored, it was that Reading game where we were 3-0 up and then he missed another 3 golden opportunities.
Yeah, could have had a hat trick. Yeah,
but in the end you were okay because we'd won 3-0. But when he was doing that in games where it was 0-0, you'd be fuming.
Ben does actually draw a parallel between Roberts and Bamford, saying that he's become a bit of a Championship Bamford is Roberts, in that he's creating chances for others and he is offering a threat and he's in the right places, but at the moment he just keeps missing. So, but yeah, there was quite a bit of praise for Roberts actually. Gavin and Adrian, a few of them were saying how he actually had a very good game despite having missed some good chances.
And hasn't it been sort of the theme of the last 6 weeks or so? It's probably since about mid-November that after every game everybody's been like, Roberts was okay today. He's definitely playing better in January and December than he was in August. And so what you were kind of looking for when he got that 3-year contract in summer, he came back in August exactly the same as he was because it had been the summer. But now in the months since, playing most weeks, whether people want him to or not, you can actually see he is playing better now, as if he might be improving, and or the condemnation of he will never be good enough for anything above conference level was maybe overblown, and he can be better than he is and will get better, and whether he'll ever be good enough for where Leeds want to be, because we could, we've got Joffrey bursting through and we could easily buy a new striker in the summer with the whole we're aiming for Europe stuff. That's a whole other thing. He's getting better and he's been playing well the last 6 weeks, especially in a time when a lot of people have let their performances drop.
Yeah,
He's never
I
really
feel a bit sorry for him now. I just feel sorry for him because
and now his calf's gone.
Yeah, well,
so we won't see him for 3 months.
Because I realised, when he picked the ball up, I think it wasn't when he fell over, because I think he had a chance when he sort of skipped inside at the edge of the area. So we were attacking the south stand, so it would have been the second half, probably just before he went off, and he picked it up and just shot wide or over or whatever. At no point did I expect that one to hit the target.
No.
You just don't, do you? Which is why I kind of feel sorry for him now.
It was like that one when he ran through just after we'd gone 1-0 up, I think, and he shot straight at Wayne Hennessy. I always I'm getting all the Burnley players. I'm giving them a little more of a continental twang than they need. Wayne Hennessy. But I never mind a shot on target. At least got it on target, and then you never know, the keeper might throw it in like he did with Dan James's.
The other problem that Roberts has at the moment is Gelhardt as well. It's just everyone in the crowd just looking at him on the bench and being like, there he is.
But it works quite nicely because you can't really fault what Roberts is doing, and then you've got Gelhardt, who the hype can go one or two ways with a player at that age, and also the pressure of the situation we're in. Do you want to put it all on a 19-year-old kid's shoulders? Bringing him on with half an hour to go with huge ovations and applause and excitement is probably perfect for him because he doesn't have the time. He can't be nervous in that situation, whereas if he's getting that starting a game is very different to being a sub at that age. I'm sure, we saw when he started against Spurs that he took it all in his stride and he'd probably be fine. And if we have to start him in against West Ham because of Robert's calf, then I'm sure he'll be fine as well. But the option of just being able to bring him in at good moments.
You need to manage him in, don't you? Yeah.
And he's getting all the... and you can feel sorry for Roberts in this because Roberts is having to do that hour of donkey work and get all the abuse, and then Gelhardt can just come on and go, all these Burnley players are really knackered now, so I'm just going to run past them. And we changed... we play a little bit differently with Gelhardt in the team as well, which I think helps him because we started playing more through balls for him to run in the channel instead of going wide to Rafinha or Harrison, who were then trying to work inside and get a crossover. The Ayling's cross for Tyler Roberts was absolutely beautiful, but it's Tyler Roberts, not Chris Wood. And if he'd have put that cross in for Gelhardt, I don't know what Gelhardt's like in the air, if he's as good as Dan James. But we really suited Gelhardt's game when we just go and chase that into the box, stand on it, dribble around until one of them kicks you.
Which they will.
We score.
Because we saw Tarkowski, didn't we? He booted him on the touchline, dragged his leg out back or whatever. He tried to tackle him. Just on Joffrey, a number of people picking him out, obviously, as you would expect. And Slip Digby does agree with what you've said there. It's that the Gelhardt sub actually energised the team and the fans just at the right moment. And it's picked out by a number of people as well, saying that he makes a contribution every time he comes on. But yeah, it's nice, almost like holding him back just enough to get him revved up and then sort of let him go.
That's one of Tyler Roberts' other great contributions, was holding him back against Chelsea when he was about to run into the away end. He needed those reins on him. But yeah, it's like the old when Alan Smith was bursting through. He was held back in a similar way, and you got that energy of him bursting into games rather than, if you watched him, because in the first 10 minutes against Burnley, we were pretty bad. We kept giving them the ball, and you could sense there was a bit of irritation at the amount of times we were giving the ball away. And having Gelhardt on the pitch in that kind of moment, it diffuses the energy, whereas with half an hour to go and you know what's happening in the match, just throw him into it and nothing then holds back the momentum.
I think we saw something different from him in this game as well, in that he was getting quite well stuck into Tarkowski as well, which was nice to see, because you don't really expect that from a 19-year-old who's quite small, but he was straight away shoving his arse into him when the ball was coming forward, and he was actually giving him some physical problems, which probably, if you look at him, he has no real right to, but it shows that he's got a bit of that to his game as well.
He's got the swagger, hasn't he? He's got the sauce. That's what I think everyone likes about him. He's just got that little bit of je ne sais quoi.
Is Tarkowski any good?
Burnley fans seem to think not. He was. I think again, I don't think there's any particularly isolated clips of it that I put in propaganda section, but they seem to think he's basically just wants to leave, and he's because he's out of contract at the end of this season, and he's basically seeing out this season to wait for a better move and a better contract.
Sell him now for 20 million, take Newcastle's money, and then reinvest half of it in a Championship centre half.
Well, that was it, because he's supposed to be good. He's got a good reputation. He's been in the England squad, I think, hasn't he?
On occasion
with it.
Yeah.
And there's always been this sort of.
I think he once drove past St George's Park. His sat nav.
He'll drove
him round some roadworks.
There's that thing of him. He'll get a big move at some point, and this is going to be the summer. But the big move that keeps getting talked about is Newcastle. and they'll just get relegated with him anyway. And you sort of like, he gave the goal to, I mean, Jackie Harrison earned it, but it's Tarkowski's mistake. And then Jackie is a really good trick thrown in as he's running in, because Tarkowski's chasing after him, and he hasn't got any way of dealing with Harrison whatsoever. So he can't be that good.
People seem to want someone called Nathan Collins to play instead of him. Seems to be the call.
Neil's son.
Probably, yes.
I think it's Nathan with two ends at the end.
Just on the sort of momentum and all that sort of thing, I'm not sure what Gavin's saying here is necessarily a worrisome thing. He says he's picking out our complete inability to sustain the performance of one half into another. We've been playing bipolar football all season. Obviously, delighted we managed to push on and put this one to bed, but you always fear if we go into the break with it being level or a slender lead, we'll find a way to absolutely fuck it up in the second half. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think you can't avoid the fact that football does swing both ways, doesn't it? In terms of momentum will change according to half-time. Sometimes comes at the right time for a team, to take, like, because we were going at Burnley at the end of that first half, so they probably welcomed half-time, which gave them a chance to reset, tweak the tactics, make the sub. So you've got to remember, you're never playing against just a neutral default thing. It's not just an objective zero, is it? It's always a changing variable. Your opposition's always got tactical changes to make and personnel changes to make. So that's you've got to contend with it. You've got to learn to contend with it. And we did. So we came through the test of that initial first 10 minutes, didn't we?
I mean, there have been, like the Brentford game was an obvious one where we looked quite comfortable for quite a period of that, and then all of a sudden it just went wrong. And I guess the Spurs game as well, we were quite involved in that in the first half, and the second half it all just.
But the difference is we need to score. That's the only difference. We need to score when we've got control of the game, and then that changes the momentum of the game from that point onwards. But if you do draw or you've only got a 1-0 lead, then it can sometimes get away from you. And I think that's where that creeping doubt and the nerves have been this season a bit.
I mean, I will say that in that period of Burnley looking good at the start of the second half, they essentially only scored because of a shit free kick that shouldn't have been given. Well, it was a decent free kick when it was hit, but I mean, the free kick itself shouldn't have been given. And I'm trying to think if there were any other massive chances they created in that spell.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. There were a couple of Chris Wood ones in the first half, weren't there? When Melia made a save and one that sort of it flashed over the bar.
Let's move on to the ref anyway. On that point, because Graham and Sazi are both picking out how bad the refs are, and I think it was Tierney, wasn't it, on the weekend? I didn't think he was that bad. And
he gets plenty of villain nominations.
They're all bad though, aren't they? The problem is, I think it's what they've been told to do as much as anything. Because we saw that some of the English refs who were in the Euros over the summer seem to ref a lot better when given better parameters to work under. And as we've discussed loads of times in recent weeks, you never quite know if something is a penalty or are they falling back on VAR as something to save them as a safety net. Is that a penalty under VAR or is it not? VAR, you can see the limitations in it as a system because they can't go back and check whether that was a free kick, for example. Because Cornet, it looked like to me anyway, that Cornet did the
I like how you keep calling him Cornet.
That's his name. Did the initial foul, and then Llorente might have got involved in some afters as well, but it probably should have gone the other way.
Yeah, I mean...
but they can't check it, that's the point I was making.
It wasn't the worst decision made this weekend.
No.
I mean, we saw the penalty not given at Arsenal, which had probably more contact in it than Click's one that was given. That you saw like the Mane one that should have been a red card because it was after 6 seconds. They went, oh, never mind. He's kind of allowed that one. It was like back to the early 90s where you could basically do whatever you want in the first few minutes of a game, and they were like, wow.
Well, is part of the problem not that the Premier League itself, like everything is a broadcast game now. So if you're abroad, you'll know this, that you can pick any game. Well,
if you're abroad.
If you're in the UK and yes, etc., you might know this as well. But everything is set up as a broadcast game, isn't it? So they could essentially be broadcasting live on any given day from any stadium. They have a full commentary team in place for the Premier League, all the cameras, everything's working, it's full VAR. Whereas it didn't always used to be like that. You kind of had there was the TV televised game on a Sunday or whatever, and then you had all your other Saturday games. But what that has enabled, and because they have the generic highlights package now as well, which has to be a maximum of like 3 minutes, I think, doesn't it, or something like that. But everything is given equal weighting. So there's this hyper analysis of absolutely everything that's used to sort of fill the gap. Like, you've got, like, it used to be Sky Sports 1 and Sky Sports 2, and then later on Sky Sports 3 evolved, didn't it? But now you've got about 10 Sky Sports channels, one of which is dedicated specifically to the Premier League. So there's always something that needs to be shown somewhere. There's like a dedicated broadcast Premier League channel that they put out around the world as well. So everything has been heightened so much through analysis that everything's getting broken down so much and analysed and criticised. And the mistakes are very much still there, I think, with the refs, and the VAR system isn't helping that. Do you think that's a problem, like that? The amount of attention that's given to everything?
Just get rid of VAR. I preferred just arguing about referees' decisions rather than whether or not there was a second layer of bad decision making being thrown on the top of it. But
they're not going to get rid of VAR.
I know they're not. I know they're not. But I don't see them. I don't see.
So how do they fix it?
By having being better at using it. Like how I don't like to go look at a more obvious one. Like how they could look at that Mane elbow and not go, okay, that's a red card. Like that seems such an obvious thing to have got wrong, and I don't understand how someone on the pitch, to assistant to fourth official, and people in VAR have looked at it and all come to the conclusion that it was fine. Like some things are just really baffling that they do, and I don't see how you actually improve that with a system. It's just you just have to accept that.
Well, that Mane one, they said it was because it was reckless rather than violent, didn't they? Because if you actually watch what happened, he had his eye on the ball all the time and then smashed his elbow into a man.
But so much that people get sent off for is reckless rather than violent.
Strike.
Yeah,
wasn't even reckless.
Not even reckless. Like most tackles are actually just people overstretching for a ball. But if you kind of get the man's shin or whatever, people go, "Oh well, you can't really do that." And I don't see why that would be any different. But
I thought VAR was good in our game.
Yeah,
we didn't see it.
Didn't see it. Apart from the big thing they couldn't rule on. But yeah, it was kind of nice to. It just always looms though, doesn't it? Like the Dan James one, even though he was absolutely nowhere near offside, there's still a little bit of me is kind of always a bit. Well, hang on, he was definitely in front of the defender when he headed it in.
Is this not just something we need to get used to though? Because we've seen that we've had chance of VAR, before this season. Do we not just need to kind of become acclimatised to it?
Suppose so.
Shit though, innit?
Yeah.
On from that, one of the really important issues that was we overlooked it actually on the match ball, the boxed logo on our sleeve.
I don't notice this.
Did you see how much that? Do you think that influenced the outcome? Did we get those 3 points because of the change to the sleeve? I prefer it because there's less of a blue epaulette on you.
I thought you were going to talk about Mateus Click then, but no, the box logo.
Not interested in midfield. Better, innit?
Yes.
Good. Let's talk about Mateus Click. Midfield, actually, loads of people did pick out the midfield and a much better performance from the midfield in general. Dallas Forshaw and Click. And no Calvin, which is encouraging. Now, we have to remember it's only Burnley. But still, encouraging signs.
Don't talk down to people. We'll have Brentford like backlash on this.
I'll do what I want.
Yeah, it was good though. And I think Click was... he seemed to be central to all of our creative stuff as well, which sometimes it seems like his job has been to just give the ball away this season. Like whenever we break in, it seems to go a bit wrong for him. Whereas this time he was kind of everything was based around him more or less.
Yeah, Mossy, you summed up well on the match ball. You were saying like you expect him every sort of fifth pass or whatever these days to give it away. It seems to be his kind of job.
Expect him, it's true.
Yeah, it seems to be his job these days is to do some good stuff, but then give it away.
It was the same on Sunday because the examples were that one where Roberts fell over for the chance because Click had played it just behind him, and there was one where he sometimes he loves to just absolutely shoot at a teammate instead of just passing to them. But then watching the way he rolled it across for Stuart Dallas for the goal couldn't have been any better, and the work, the strength and the little trick to send Joffrey away for Dan James's goal, and just and I think my using him as an example because what I was trying to get across is what it's been with Click all season and with a lot of the players all season is those passes. We talk about the distribution being off and the passing accuracy being down. It's only by a bit, and it's just he'll miss by about 6 inches, and it's like that Tyler Roberts one where it's just in front of him and behind him is that it's on about a foot, and he just gets it that little bit wrong, and it keeps happening in midfield. It wasn't that bad against Burnley, and in fact, I don't mean to pick on it whatsoever. It's just that's what has been wrong, but so much against Burnley was so much better, even with that in the game. And I always say mistakes are absolutely fine, so I don't mind it too much if a pass is just a little bit off. That happens. That's normal. Everybody's moving really quickly. Everybody's running at 30 mile an hour. Oh, I don't know if that's really fast or not. Is that fast for a human?
30 miles an hour?
Yeah.
I can't run at 30 miles an hour. I'm fairly confident.
A professional footballer.
I think that's fast.
We played a board game at our house last night, and it's about where you've got to guess like the range of something, and the question was, how many strides do you think Usain Bolt takes on average when he does his 100 metres?
Usain Bolt, 27.33 miles per hour. So yes.
Oh, right. Well,
So the fastest human on the planet. Fastest human on the planet has nearly got
to
there.
ever lived. Yes.
I mean, yeah, it's not impossible.
Go on, how many strides do you reckon Usain Bolt takes on his 100 metres then?
200.
Oh, God. 90.
40. It's 40.
40?
His stride is about just shy of 2.5 metres, yeah.
Long legs.
Yeah, insane, isn't it? Back to the important stuff.
But the midfield was great.
Let's have a look at...
So we don't need to sign anybody.
Jim O actually does pick something out to return to the theme we were on about before. The actual significance of the changes, both Joffrey and James came on the pitch at the right time and took the crowd with them. Whereas I think one of the criticisms of Bielsa this season has been like people have been a little bit baffled by some of the subs, probably due to enforced circumstances. But it felt like
Get McKinstry on.
They were right and they worked.
Is this the first time we've made changes in a game and Stuart Dallas hasn't had to move position?
Possibly.
I feel like every change we ever make involves, it's like, no, Stuart, now to left back, no, now to right.
It's like a game of football in Twister, isn't it?
Then we'll make another change. It'll be right, now you're into centre mid, now you're up to right back.
I think that hints at one of the big things that was behind everything that being good on Sunday was Dallas didn't have to move. The back four had a right back and a left back, 2 centre halves. The midfield had 3 midfielders, and then what's in attack, a couple of wingers and a striker. So everything was actually as it was. And the changes that we made, although Roberts was injury enforced, but you like to think Joffrey might have come on anyway just to change it up. But then the Harrison one for James was a choice. And the players who came on, Joffrey has now played himself into being a first team player. He's not really just a youth team prospect anymore. And Daniel James is a £25 million signing. So it's not shifting Stuart Dallas into central defence and bringing on Stuart McKinstry for his debut as a centre forward because we've got no other choices. It was all building on a starting 11 that's not our first team, but getting closer and played well, and then being able to make good choices to build upon that. And I think when we talk about the midfield playing well, I wonder how much of that is helped by the fact that we had full-backs and then the Koch and Llorente partnership that we've just never seen. It was really good.
That's been picked out in the comments actually as well.
I think Ayling was key to it as well, because you forget the amount of times that he just picks up the ball and runs with it as well in a way that it's weird, because you'd expect someone like Shackleton when he plays there, because he's a kind of a converting midfielder, you expect him to do that more, but it seems like Ayling's just got this real instinct that he'll just get it, and he'll see if he sees any space in front of him, just charges into it.
Like Llorente, they're both quite brave with the ball. Llorente to the point of recklessness at times as well. But Koch and Llorente picked out by Rick and Adrian as well for their performances. Let's wrap it up then. But
did Llorente shoot from about 70 yards with the free kick at one stage? I think
in this game.
Yes, I think he did. There was definitely a point at which he put the ball down well inside our own half and just twatted it. And I could only think it was a shot.
I think he was trying to play a ball over the top and it just went wrong.
There was no one anywhere near it, though. I'd have to see it back again. But there was a bit where everyone sort of looked and went...
I don't remember that.
He has his moments.
Okay.
The other player we've not bigged up is Junior Firpo.
Well, I want to come on to him in a second, actually. But before we do, just returning to Dan James, Slip Digby says, fair play to James for leaping like a little scum salmon and putting himself in harm's way to score in injury time. And then we'll come on to...
He got kicked in the throat.
And overcame it.
Why is his left arm so straight when he's celebrating? He runs off celebrating. His left arm's weirdly like... It's at an odd angle, if you look
Maybe
at
it kicked a nerve.
It was disturbing me to look at it. I don't know why. It's like he was doing a sort of train spotting, needed a little tourniquet around him. I don't know.
But surely he just picked himself up with his left arm, so he might have been a bit tired.
Possibly, yeah.
But I was going to say, just to finish on the yin and the yang as we wrap this up, miserable Ding. I like Ding's quickly becoming my favourite miserablist, who's popping up in the comments every week. Suggests Firpo wasn't that good, Dallas wasn't that good. I think both were pretty much faultless, weren't they, throughout that performance? That certainly Firpo looked great.
I'd say they were both very good. I mean, the caveat is that it's Burnley.
It's Burnley. Well, yeah, it says Forshaw was that good. Good of you, Ding. He was, and this is still a relegation battle. Yeah, it is, but we've given ourselves a real chance now, haven't we? And Jeff,
the season doesn't finish until May, and we don't get 30 points for beating Burnley. So obviously, it's a relegation battle.
But Jeff does ask the question: how many more wins will it take to stay up? I reckon we could probably do it with about 4.
Wait, what was your tally at the start of the season?
You said 8. You said 8, didn't you? I think overall we settled on about 8.
We don't need many. And we've still got to play Newcastle soon.
Newcastle at home. We've got Norwich at home. We've got Villa at home. We've got Southampton at home.
I think just beating the ones below us. Watford away.
Yeah, we've actually got a pretty good record against the teams below us. And at the bottom half of the table.
That's the thing that's going to keep us up, is the record against the teams below us, because we are clearly better than them.
As Wolves prove as well, you don't have to score loads of goals to do well in this division. Just got to make sure you stop shipping them in at the other end.
Just to say, Fulham, so I did it when we were talking about it earlier in the season, I did it on how many games teams went down with. Fulham and West Brom went down last season with 5 wins each. Sheffield United won 7, and then Burnley stayed up with 10, and then Brighton with their regulation 9 every season. So my point was that the relegation thing is 5 to 7. So if you win 6, you're getting in the mix. The season before it was 5, 8, 9. So 8 or 9 wins.
I think 9 does it. I mean, look, at 4 as a bare minimum would take us to 31 points. Plus, you factor in some draws, would probably see you squeak it over the line. But if you get your regulation Brighton 9, then that's going to take you to 34 points. If you add on another 15.
Huddersfield, when they went down, won 3.
Plus, so 34
doesn't
points.
Add anything to the debate, just
plus 34 points plus some draws should comfortably do it this season, given how low down the teams in the bottom half are.
3 wins. Imagine we need 3 games.
How many games are left then? So let's work off an average of, let's say, 19. What's that times 3? That's what is that? Is that 56? 59 times 57, isn't it?
I feel like this live maths doesn't necessarily make for a good podcast.
Is that 57 points available?
Let's just win some more games. We're basically halfway through the season, and if the second half is exactly the same as this extremely disappointing first half, we're going to be absolutely fine, aren't we?
Now, I was just going to point out that you're looking at the likes of Norwich, Newcastle, whoever, Burnley, Watford, whoever they are, all having to pick
Everton.
up. Yeah, having to pick up sort of 20 to 25 points out of an available 57, which is a huge return. You're asking them to go on a sensational run to turn it around. So
yeah, they can't do it. Look at Watford's form.
We've given ourselves a chance, is what we should say, and that's the positive thing. And Ken Bates, stole my seat, is the one who is finishing on this note, saying be positive. Said after the Arsenal match that those 4 games, including post-Liverpool, weren't important for this season. Matches like this against a direct rival this season are what mattered. We played with nearly all our players in their preferred position, and it showed.
It did feel like a bit of a cheat almost, didn't it, having been able to do that? We've been so used to having
putting a first team out.
Yeah, we've been so used to having to play everyone in the wrong positions, and then when you have to bring someone off the bench, you're like, I don't know, just send on McKinstry.
I don't want to keep picking on McKinstry.
But he's someone who, at the start of the season...
He's actually pretty good.
But he's not someone you would have expected or wanted, really, to be bringing off the bench, is it?
Helder. Let's pick on him.
Let's pick on him instead. But like Dan James, a good sub. Yeah. Gelhardt, a good sub. Players who you want to bring on, who you can go, okay, I can see how they're going to change the game, whereas it feels like for ages the subs have just been, well, I guess him, because we've got no one else, and Stuart Dallas can sort it out.
That wraps up part 1 of Propaganda. In part 2, stick about for that. We will find out what the Burnley fans said and what's been going on in the wider world of propaganda. Flick over to that on YouTube.
The Square Ball Podcast.